everyone, back to another episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. It's two guys' take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy. We're broadcasting from beautiful, historic downtown Concord in the HP5 studios. I've got across the table from me, looking deep into my eyes, the beautiful, the
Hazel
one, the
eyes.
only, Mojo.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. Guess what this week is? This week is St. Patty's Day.
Let this play out a little bit. I love it.
Yeah, the day that all of us are Irish for one day. St. Patty's Day parade and party is actually started in grand old New York, not Ireland. Ireland took a little while to catch up. They didn't have their first official Irish St. Patty's Day parade until, I think, 1901. My interwebs are down currently in the studio, so I cannot tell you that correct date. But St. Patty's Day is recognized around the world, and guess what? The patron saint of St. Patty's, or St. Patty, the patron saint of Ireland, is also the patron saint of several other countries and also cities here in the United States, like New York, Boston, and a few others. I did not know that. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah. So happy St. Patty's Day, and also happy Ides of March. Beware of the Ides of March. This is one of the most famous lines from Julius Caesar's Shakespeare play. On this day, 44 A.D., Caesar was actually assassinated by senators and Brutus. As a funny joke for the Ides of March, any salad could be a Caesar as long as you stab it hard enough. Ha, ha, ha.
Good one.
Yeah.
Good
I'd like
one.
to introduce also our third host for the day, which is my daughter. She's sitting right beside me, and her name is Pootie, or Nevea, but we call her Pootie. She's 13 years old, and she knows everything. So, yeah, I'm 40 years old, and I know nothing, evidently. So come and introduce yourself, honey. You got to scoot up to the microphone a little bit. Scoot up and introduce yourself. Say hello.
Hey, I wasn't prepared for this. Okay.
How do you prepare for something like this?
Hello, fellow people on the interwebs. My name is Nevaeh McNeely, and I am your third host for today. Only for today. Yes.
Maybe.
I don't know.
This is an audition.
You said that you're going to increase our listenership by 110%. So if that happens, then obviously you're going to be on the podcast from now on. Well, you have a paid position.
I
So.
don't know if I can handle this anymore. I think I'm retiring.
Why is that?
Because it's too stressful and it's too much work.
Dear Lord. Well, I guess it's pretty much too stressful to clean your room and bathroom at home too, right?
Actually, it's not.
Oh, yeah, okay. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you joining in as always. You can find us on Facebook at Southern Fried Philosophy. You can find us on the Instagram and Twitters at SFP Radio. Our website is www.southernfriedphilosophy.com. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. Please go subscribe, write us a review, a rating. That's how we move up in the podcast world, and actually we're trending up pretty well as far as listeners. Please share our episodes. Your favorite episodes, go back and share those with your friends on social media. That way they know about us. And I'd like to say hello to our new listeners in Russia, the Netherlands, and Australia. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, checking us out. Please submit some questions or something you'd like to hear from a Southerner's perspective on Twitter, or like I said, you can email us through the website. How you been doing, Jeremy?
I'm pretty great. As you know, last week I was pretty excited to be going up on my adventure up to DC to see Bert.
So how was how was that?
It was pretty awesome.
Was it?
It was pretty awesome. So he just did a special probably a month ago now, and so he did 0 of his routine.
Right.
All new jokes, all just off the top of his head, everything from scratch, and it was pretty amazing to see.
Did he talk more about his family still?
Oh, always,
his kids,
always with the family. His daughters crack me up. He was just in London a few weeks ago and got his ears pierced because his daughter wanted to, but she didn't want to be the last one to go.
Okay.
So he did it with her.
Oh Lord.
So just always a good show with Bert. I think so. The plan was for him to go on, do about an hour and 15. They were going to give him the light about 15 minutes before.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him the light 5-6 times.
Oh wow.
And then at one point he said, "I see the light. I'm just going." And he ended up going about 2:15.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you get your money's worth.
Definitely.
Wow.
I have no clue how he made it to Richmond for a 7:00 show, because he didn't get out of there till at least 2:30. And if anyone up in the Northern Virginia area knows, the traffic from D.C. to Richmond is insane.
Must have used a helicopter or something.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but
that beltway, getting out of the beltway traffic is horrible.
It's bad.
Yeah.
So, how you be doing?
I'm great, man. But you know what does burn my biscuits this
Okay.
week is I see an uptick trend in the female bouffant Southern style hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this week I've spotted about 8 of them coming out of CVS and also grocery stores.
Oh man.
That is an 80s haircut that needs to stay in the 80s. I'm not sure if you just brought it back or if you just never got rid of it.
Maybe it's a coming trend for the race coming up here in a couple
It
weeks.
could be, but these women look like they live around here, and I'm kind of scared because that's the days of old Aquanet and a lot of hairspray. So, yeah, let's keep that in the past where it belongs. So that's just my opinion.
In the past, or 80s parties only, right?
80s revival parties is a perfect match.
Right.
But yeah, so let's not keep that here, please. So, do you have any wacky news this week?
I have a quick little update to my wacky news from last week
So this is about the Joe Biden son
about the Joe. It's not
saga.
a great update, unfortunately.
Oh.
So they've decided to take their divorce private, and so we probably won't be getting any news.
So no juicy nuggets this
No.
week.
So they agreed that it's better left.
You mean the divorce of his first wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So yeah, we unfortunately won't be getting.
So is he with his brother's wife still?
Definitely.
Wow. So they've in the thralls of love.
Yep. So that was an unfortunate update for us.
Wow. Well maybe I'm sure we'll probably get some more fuel for the fodder there with little Joe Biden's son. So I'm sure he's not going away too much. So do you have anything any interesting school news that was funny this week?
Give us the dirt.
No,
No.
not really.
Nothing happened.
Yeah, I don't believe you. There's always drama with you. So
Not really.
I've read your post before. I know how you think. So my wacky news segment this week is probably the ultimate trolling political prank in history.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sure everyone has heard about Shia LaBeouf and his live stream camera.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So for everyone out there, Shia LaBeouf has set up a live stream camera in New York where it was a 24-hour live stream. He was get out there and try to grab some other listeners or some other people that were watching live stream. And the chant was, "He will not divide us." And this came after President Trump's inauguration. And it was set up for a few months in New York until I guess people started coming and trolling it.
Yeah. I saw a couple of them. They were
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, some of them were great, and you got to kind of give it to the props for the people out there speaking out in New York. So he moved it 2 different cities, and then eventually canned that project right there. But he took the project. What he did was he put a flagpole up in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
and had a flag that said, "He will not divide us."
Okay.
This flag will be flown 24/7 for the next 4 years until President Trump is either voted out or whatever.
Right.
If
Till
he was
the next election.
if he was if he was reelected, then obviously to go for 8 years. So Shia LaBeouf set this live stream camera up, and it basically is a live stream of this just a flags line.
Okay.
And the people from 4chan set up a expedition, and 4chan. You're familiar with 4chan,
I
correct?
am.
I am not.
Okay.
So can you explain to our listeners what 4chan is?
It is it's the internet before the internet. Let's go with that. It's a message board where all internet type things are created. A lot of memes are from there, and a lot of just internet
I think
jokes.
Pepe the Frog was from 4chan, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I think that's where it started. Yeah, and before it got taken over.
Yeah. I know that a lot of 4chan has everything from liberals to conservatives to libertarians
Yep.
to even dark stuff. I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen 4chan articles on 4chan about that. So, but anyway, there's anonymous pro 4chaners. I think this is probably the same 4chan group that actually cracked Hillary and Podesta emails.
Okay.
So anyway, these this group of 4chaners actually set up after viewing this live stream video for hours and hours and hours. They actually saw wind patterns and cloud patterns, and they actually mapped out They
where
kind
it
of
is.
triangulated where it was, and also using flight patterns too.
Okay.
They would see 3 airlines crossing, they'd match it up to airlines crossing. So they had this thing triangulated to where they had an estimated idea where it was. So Shia LaBeouf had this was spotted actually in Greenville, Tennessee,
Okay.
eating at a local. So on March 8th, Shia LaBeouf was actually spotted in a diner in Greenville, Tennessee. So people try to narrow it down. They're like, all right, it's got to be Greenville, Tennessee, of course. And then some of the other 4chaners thought it was still in the Great Lakes due to the wind patterns. So anyway, the 4chaners actually matched up the sunset patterns in Greenville, Tennessee. So pretty clever, if you can imagine. So they were triangulated the location with weather, airplane or air flight schedules, the sunset, and they actually used ancient astrological star maps. So anyway,
it's amazing the things that they can do.
Absolutely. You got to be impressed.
Yeah.
You can't even be mad at this if you're someone who doesn't approve
Right.
of Trump. You can't even be mad at these guys if
The
you're,
work that went into it.
Yeah, I mean it's impressive. These
So
guys,
after they found it, was there any?
well, get this.
Okay.
Even when they narrowed it down they triangulated it to a few mile radius.
Yeah.
They had a local guy there in a pickup truck go around beeping the horn and trying to see if they could hear it on live stream. So once they had that, they even had it down even more. So they spotted it. 4chan guys spotted it, posted it. So one night they snuck up, I guess, all SEAL Team 6 and replaced the "He Will Not Divide Us" flag with a Pepe the Frog T-shirt and a "Make America Great Again" hat.
Wow.
So that was streaming for quite a while. Of course, after Shia found that, he cut the feed, and right now there's just a feed that says "Coming soon."
Wow.
So, but evidently this legendary 4chan troll king now has this "He Will Not Divide Us" flag hanging in his house as a trophy. So
That's pretty amazing.
most elaborate prank ever.
Yeah,
I mean, you got to admit these guys. I mean, who would have ever thought about ancient astrological,
Right.
star maps?
The places that people will go for that stuff.
And I felt bad. I used to put real estate signs in people's yards or egg their house.
Right.
Or toilet paper their house. I mean, yeah, that's pretty elaborate. So I thought that was funny, and I got a kick out of just reading the article. So
along the same lines of kind of internet trolls, did you hear about Bodie McBoatface this week?
I don't even know who Bodie McBoatface is.
So
do you know Pootie? She says no with her face.
So Bodie McBoatface is a little thing that the internet came up with when people made the dumb decision to put out a internet poll to name like a ship or something like that. And of course the internet came back with Bodie McBoatface as their proposed name for this ship.
Right.
So I forget, it was something with the Navy, some research mission or something like that, and they were gonna name a submarine Bodie McBoatface. And so the Navy stepped in and was like, "We're not gonna name it Bodie McBoatface."
Why not?
I don't know. It's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. So they ended up not going with the internet poll. They did it themselves, or named it themselves. And then this week was the maiden voyage of that submarine, and they had a smaller ship that went with it that they ended up actually naming Bodie McBoatface.
Oh, really?
And they showed it, and it went on its maiden voyage this week as well. So,
what was the ship? What was the ship's name? I was just curious.
I don't remember what they named the.
It's probably the Vladimir
actual one.
Putin.
Yeah, something probably serious and not
Bodie
internet funny.
McBoatface. Yeah.
But yeah, Bodie McBoatface was trending all over Twitter, and it was a pretty good thing. This week.
So evidently, you never advertise that you want someone to help you name your.
I don't understand why people think it's a good idea to put up polls to do things.
Right.
Last year during the NHL All-Star Game, we had a backup defenseman make the All-Star team and be captain off of a player vote because some forum decided that they were going to take over this poll.
Oh, yeah.
And just flooded it with votes for some backup, guy. And it was a big deal. And now this, and I don't understand why people think it's a good idea.
Hey, I guess when they want to leave it to the fans to vote in or whatever.
But you don't put that on the internet.
No, not at all.
Don't put that on
Someone's
the internet.
going to ruin it.
Yeah.
Especially if it catches wind on social media.
The
that'll
internet is why we can't have nice things.
That's right. Also, I want to offer apology out to all our listeners for the last 4 weeks, man. I went back and listened to the last couple of editings, and I sound horrible in my nasal congestion. So it's allergy season here, so evidently Claritin doesn't work for me right now. So I apologize to anyone listening out there. But we're going to do, I submitted a question through Facebook on my personal and also our Southern Fried Philosophy page, and misheard music lyrics.
Yeah, I'm the king of this.
I am too.
Are you really? Really, I didn't know that. you sing like you know everything.
That's the key, confidence.
That's right. So, give me some of the more popular ones that the people submitted.
So the one I've got queued up is my favorite one.
Okay.
And it's the one that I was singing incorrectly, and my wife called me out for it.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah.
Party pooper.
And as soon as she called me out for it and told me what the actual lyrics were, I was instantly angry because it made so much sense and mine was so dumb. So here's the song. It's Big and Rich. I won't tell you the title because that's the part that gets messed up.
It don't matter where we're going, up on a mountain, down by the big side, till we find the love that we fell into.
So I went with, I just want to run away from you. I want to run away from you. That's what I went with.
Oh,
Not I want to run away with you, which is the name of the song.
yeah, that'd be so romantic to run away from you.
And so now when we're in the car and that song comes on, I sing it very loud. So that was my favorite.
Big and Rich.
Yeah, it's a good one. Let's see. This is the favorite that was up
For our users.
Yeah, not this one. Sorry about my lack of technology use. This one, I think you had 6, 7, 8 posting all about this.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Hold me close, I'm tired of dancing.
They all went with Tony Danza, which is, makes sense.
Right. Yeah. What is it? It's Tiny Dancer.
It is
but I
Tiny
always
Dancer
thought
by Elton John.
Yeah, I always thought it was Tired of Dancing.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's kind of horrible.
So that was another good one. Let's see what else I've got on here.
Oh yeah.
Rich Girl was one.
I remember when my dad would play this in the car.
Yeah.
Growing up, of course, we grew up in a very evangelical church, so the word I thought they were saying was the B word.
Oh, okay.
And I always sit there and kind of grimace with my face every time the song was the word was said, because I was like, Dad, I cannot believe you're letting this slip through. So
let's see where I'm trying to find the comment where they said this one. I can't find it right now, but some of the other ones that are on here were well, you said that was yours, right?
Yeah,
Rich
that was
Girl.
mine.
Yeah, okay. Some of the other ones were Flat Bottom Girls.
yeah.
She was thrilled when she found out it was Fat Bottom Girls. Pretty good.
Well, I mean, I guess it'd be kind of hard for flat bottom girls to rule the world.
Yep, another Tony Danza. Some of these make me feel fine. I don't know what they didn't say what it was supposed to be.
Summer breeze.
Oh yeah,
Summer breeze.
Oh
Some of
yeah.
these,
Instead of
yeah.
some of these, okay. Tear in my beer instead of tear in my ear is what she thought it was. So that was a good one. My favorite A1A Detroit Avenue.
Yep.
Instead of Beachfront Avenue.
Yep.
Here's one that was submitted on behalf of our third host here.
Oh yeah.
The Wreckers, Leave the Pieces.
Yep.
She thought it was Leave the Pizza.
Leave the pizza.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought it was too. I think Nevaeh. Yeah, that's right. That's the third host. Actually, Nevaeh used to sing that to the top of her lungs.
Yeah.
Pootie, aka Pootie. She also used to sing like several Christmas songs.
Yeah.
That were like, I can't remember now, but my wife would be better off with that. But just to miss her lyrics. Even my youngest now, 4 years old, she does that too, and it's just it makes you giggle. I never correct them just because it's too cute. So.
Yeah, you can't.
What else we got?
Here's another one of mine. So when I was listening to this song, I was, let's see, the song came out in probably around 91.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have been maybe 7 or 8,
Okay.
maybe a little younger. And this was the first cassette that I had.
Cassettes.
Yep. Only cassette that I ever had. Okay, here we go. See if
All
you
right.
see how many notes it takes you to figure this one out.
Oh, I saw the sign.
I thought it was I saw the sun. And I was like, why is she opening up her eyes when she sees the sun? It makes no sense.
Oh, man. I remember this song. Do you remember the song?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
She remembers it.
91.
I know it.
I think this was actually at my, let's see, 8th grade dance. So I'm a little bit older than you. But, yeah.
So, and then this is the last one I have queued up. She didn't say what lyrics she got wrong, I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
But
No,
it was-
I remember.
I Get Weak. I Get Weak. By Belinda Carlisle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she thought it was I Eat Wheat.
Oh, gosh. This brings back so many memories, though. I was taking karate lessons at the time when the song came out.
What year was this? Approximately. Was I born yet?
86, I bet.
So no.
No, because you weren't even a
I was
thought.
87.
You weren't even a thought in your parents' eyes. Yeah.
So those are the
well,
ones.
hold
that
on.
I've
We
You got more?
yeah, we got to look up one
Okay.
for me. This is the last one.
Let
I
that play in the
promise.
background while we look
Oh,
it
okay,
up.
yeah.
Good mood
let's see,
music.
Secret Agent Man. It's an
Oh.
old song.
Yes.
And I used to love the song. And the singer is actually great. I can't remember who off the top of my head because my dad would listen to classic
Yeah.
radio. Would come on.
Get ahead a little bit. This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the artist on this?
Johnny Rivers.
Yep. Here we go. Everybody knows this chorus. Asian man.
So it's funny that you
Asian man.
brought this one up,
Right.
and that's what you thought was wrong.
Right.
Here's another. This is by Da Vinci's Notebook.
Life of danger. He travels in our midst, but
I'm lost. Oh,
Wait for it.
Los Alamos, beware. It's not the Russian bear. Odds are he was sent from mainland China. Now they
Oh, I thought that was coming into it. It'll be the.
who's the band on this?
This is Da Vinci's Notebook. They do like parody songs.
Okay, I don't know if this is the group from Carmen San Diego.
mainland China. Secret
Asian man.
Asian man.
Yeah, I like that. I never heard of Da Vinci's Notebook.
Oh,
or-
they do some good ones.
Do they
You
really?
definitely got to listen to it. They do a lot of really funny, like I said, just parody songs.
Okay, so like
and-
they're like the they're like the acoustical quartet, like Weird Al Yankovic. I guess.
Yeah, they've got a couple good ones. One about throwing his computer off a lead or off a building. And,
Okay.
It's just great CD. You definitely got to listen to it.
So Pootie, you have any songs that you've misheard lyrics to?
Not that I can remember. Like,
You said you do it all the
I know,
time.
But like I can't think of it like right now.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just can't. Like if you had told me about this like earlier, I could have been like, oh yeah, probably. But like, no, I don't. Cause like I've learned the actual lyrics to the song. So
What's the Christmas tree? The Christmas song you used to miss.
I don't know.
Oh, whatever. Anyway, guys, you still can submit your misheard lyrics to our Twitter and also our Facebook, so that will still be open for a while. I think it's funny because you get you be driving down the street, you just the song comes on, you
Oh yeah.
singing like crazy, and in the car or the shower, and all of a sudden you just bust out.
You
the
just
wrong
got to have
lyrics.
confidence and go with it.
That's right.
And
Roll with it.
I think I did. What was it? The Abercrombie and Fitch LFO. Abercrombie and Fitch. I know I messed that one up a lot back in the day. So
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, it's good times.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with our interview segment. We have Lainey George from redeemingjoy.org. It's a organization that helps rescue women and give them restore some possibility and hope in their lives that are victims sex trafficking. So anyway, listen in on the interview. I think you'll find some interesting points.
If you know me, Biggin, you'll know I'm crazy about Kentucky and bourbon. So what happens when you throw coffee beans in a bourbon barrel? It's pure magic. I stumbled upon Kentucky Nose Bourbon Barrel Coffee a few years ago during a trip to Lexington, and it was love at first sip. From the heart of a true craftsman comes the unique combination of coffee and bourbon. Do yourself a favor and check out KentuckyNose.com to get the finest bourbon barrel coffee the Bluegrass has to offer. Check out KentuckyNose.com. You can also check out his new store at 337 West Broadway Street if you're just hanging around Frankfort, Kentucky. It's a new store. It's supposed to be really awesome. So go check it out at KentuckyNose.com.
Welcome back to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. This is our interview segment. Today we have Lainey George. She is the president and founder of Redeeming Joy. Redeeming Joy is an organization here in Concord, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. Lainey started this organization, and I'll let her get into more of her story. But basically what it does, it helps women who are being sex trafficked, a.k.a. slavery. Let's call it for what it is. We're going to kind of get a little discussion about this. Like I said, we're based out of the Charlotte area, and one day Lainey and I were having a conversation, and she said a couple of the biggest days actually in Charlotte for sex trafficking is the main sport events. And of course, we have Coca-Cola 600 coming up in I think 2 weeks. So I kind of want to get her on the show and just talk about that and kind of just bring more to light, because this is really just an issue that it should be a hot button issue, but I don't think mainstream media has really pushed it. They've had some documentaries here and there, but this is actually becoming a growing problem. Modern day slavery here in America, which is basically through sex workers. So welcome to the show, Lainey.
Thank you for having us.
So let's get started. So obviously you started this organization. It's close to your heart. It's your ministry. Why did you want to start it?
Good question. I'm extremely passionate about this. I was trafficked from 3 to 17, oftentimes right along my mom. Mm-hmm. I was in and out of foster care. I got out at 17, but I was far, far from free. At 17, I got out, and I swore I would never speak about it again. And it was basically unattended wounds, basically eat you alive. And so the shame got to the place that I tried to take my life again in my 30s. And I just remember screaming out to God and going, God, I'm angry, first of all, because I couldn't even successfully kill myself. And so I said, you know what, God, either you let me die this time or you set me free, because I can't live this way anymore. And so God did just that. Obviously, I'm here talking to you. And but it was a journey. It took quite a bit. And then as I'm going through my healing, at this point, I don't even know what trafficking is. I think I pretty much believed what everybody else did, that we're kidnapping kids and chaining them up, and they're coming from other countries. And so I began helping in another organization, and my role at that time was to help rescue these women. And then I would stay at nighttime with them in hotels, and we would be looking for places to place these ladies. And I'm helping one lady in particular at this point, and I've called every house in the United States. I've called into Canada, and there's absolutely no place for these ladies. And so I'm kind of getting aggravated and irritated. And so I have this conversation with the Lord, and I'm fussing and arguing, and again, maybe angry, and realizing that there's no placement. And so I'm going, God, you've not given me any tangible hope to give this lady. There's not a house in the United States. And he goes, sure there is. And I'm like, seriously? Have you not seen what I've done for the last 4 days? And he goes, I think your house. And I'm like, okay, pump your brakes, Lord. I've got a family and all of this. And so I asked my husband if she could come over, this lady that we were helping, for dinner. And of course he said yes. And so we have dinner as a family. She goes outside to smoke a cigarette. By the way, they almost all smoke Newport 100s in a box. So
that's kind of a crazy coincidence.
It is. So I kept Newport 100s in my glove box all the time. If you ever want 7 minutes of undivided attention from somebody, have Newport 100s. So she goes outside, smokes her cigarette, and my husband asks me if I had a question for him. And I'm like, why, I do. And so I asked if she could stay there. And so he had said God had told him the night before that we were to open our home for her. So we dumped everything into that and started providing these services for these ladies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So go back to let's just define sex trafficking. Let's do it in layman's terms and not much more of a not really a legalistic term or what or law enforcement would use. So let's use what a basic term what sex trafficking is.
I love that you said slavery because that's exactly what it is. We've got more people enslaved today than we've ever had in the history of the United States.
What's the estimation right now?
Last year was estimated about 300,000 lives domestically. So we're talking about United States domestic lives were trafficked in the United States.
Just citizens.
Just U.S. citizens.
Wow.
And I've been doing this for 15 years, not necessarily knowing what this work was. And I've only had domestic citizens. I was born here in the United States, just in case everybody wonders.
Right.
And so, so basically what you're doing is you have somebody that uses force, fraud, or coercion. I've helped over 200 women. So we're using force, fraud, or coercion to get these ladies into this life, and it's having them perform a sex act. It's not necessarily just the performance of sex. It could be a sex act. It could be pornography. And you do it for exchange of something of value, whether it's money, whether it's shelter, whether it's food.
Drugs, protection.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And usually it's that guys too. I'm going to protect you, you know. And then you've got them enslaved. So when I didn't tell you part of my story, 2012, I went back to Florida, which is where my trafficking happened, and rescued my mom, who at 47 was still enslaved in it. And, by the time you're 47, this is all she's done.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other psychological terms out there like Munchausen or I'm trying to think of the other terms now where basically you start to relate to your captor and you really honestly believe that they have the best interest at heart for you.
Right.
So,
it's trauma bonding.
That's right.
You love these people. I mean,
Right.
in all reality, they are giving something that you need.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's not not met safely. So, and oftentimes people think, that these are the less fortunate or druggies and whatnot. But I've helped pastors' kids. I've helped, kids that have been honor roll their whole high school careers. So it's not a poor
urban
absolutely
thing.
not.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's probably what a lot of people think is a stereotype. Is probably I'll be bold enough to say it's probably a predominantly black, it's predominantly really inner city problem, low economic, and like you said though, it's just everyone from all kinds of spectrum and background. It could be 2-parent home, could be a single parent home. It doesn't really discriminate.
It's not a respecter at all.
So for the most cause, what do you think attracts most women or even men to this? I mean, is this more just because they've had some type of broken aspect of their life and they're searching for something, and this happens to be a field to avoid? I mean, what drags men and women into this?
Right. Statistically, it's 94% women, so that means 6% are men.
Okay.
And I often say it is abuse of vulnerability. I don't necessarily think vulnerability is a weakness. I think if we don't know what our vulnerabilities are, it then becomes a weakness.
Well,
and
people can exploit them.
Then they prey upon it, and they do just that. So, while we help women over 18, where that vulnerability happened and where that trauma began usually is very young. So I love to give a visual example of putting two wrists together and telling the story of somebody and using tissue paper to wrap chains around their wrists. And I use vulnerabilities. And the vulnerabilities could be they want to be wanted. So for me, having been in foster care, I just wanted to belong. I wanted to know somebody wanted me. And when a man's, telling you as a young child that I love you, and then in exchange they're wanting the sex act, I'm quickly learning that the value of who I am is my body. And so, unfortunately, we live in a society that places a value on women's bodies. I'm not sure what all I could say, but
Well, it's a sexual market value.
Absolutely.
Basically what it is. And also, not only you have that component, but like you said, though, hearing those words, I love you, now is distorted. You now associate this act, this aggressive non-compliance act upon you, now is what I love you. So I guarantee you, like an addict who has a warped sense of a normal relationship, this had to be a big transition out of this. I'm sure most of the women have to go through this as far as finding some type of normality, what we would consider normality. What are the biggest hurdles that you see for most of these women that are coming out, and probably what's also the recidivity rate as far as a lot of these women? I'm sure a lot of them go back to it. It's just like the prison syndrome.
We've got to identify who they are and them have a true identity of who they are. And it's very similar to addicts. We're having to go, what was a trauma that made you believe that you were something of less value, that you could do this? We're often having to overcome addictions. We're one of the few homes in the United States. There's 150 beds to offer services to these women, only about 70 that offer substance abuse support with it. A lot of mental health issues, a lot of trauma. Almost every woman we've helped has PTSD. Someone who's got sexual trauma is 4 times likely to get PTSD than someone who's gone off to war. And we don't tend to recognize that. So, our biggest hurdle is them walking away knowing who they are. One of our goals at Redeeming Joy is, first of all, we loan them hope until they can have a hope of their own. But we want them to leave Redeeming Joy knowing so confidently of who they are that if that rug get pulled out from underneath them again, they're not going to go back to this life. And that takes a community of services. It takes a long journey of just speaking life and truth into their lives.
Right. What do you think the recidivity rate is right now that you've seen, or even statistics? I'm sure you got conferences.
Yeah, it's pretty high. We've been fortunate enough that we've had 2 ladies return back into the life. But my hope is they continue to have a relationship with me. So
well, I'm sure you planted seeds too, so that's good. Now, you said that there's 300,000 domestically. What do you think also international?
Oh, it's
triple,
ridiculous.
quadruple, 10 times?
We're in the millions.
I mean, because, for anyone who may be listening that doesn't realize that most of these Asian massage parlors have, I'm sure, pretty much all 100% staffed with sex traffic workers, correct? Also up in north, like in New York, New Jersey, I know a lot of it's Russian controlled. This is just from my travels as far as when I was a chef and stuff like that. So just conversations I've had with people that, these massage parlors are just a front for sex trafficking.
Absolutely.
So, and of course, there's probably other mountains of disgusting things on the dark web.
Absolutely.
So, but we have in plain sight these massage parlors. We also have in plain sight with escort sites, Backpage, Craigslist. What can we do as a community to help squash this? I mean, not coming from a condemning hand, but from a hand of hope. I mean, because I think a lot of times Christians, members of church, members of charity, you have a tendency just to burn the business down, but you have the humanity level part of it. There are human faces in there that are basically victims. They may not know it, but they're victims. Right. So what do we need to do as a community to help get these women out or help rid this problem?
Right. First of all, we've got to change the status quo.
Right.
That men are success objects and women are sex objects.
No.
We talked about value earlier. We had a lady who we were helping, and she goes, Lainey, I want to get out of this. I know I need help. She goes, but I've become addicted to the money, and there's a lot of money in this. It's a $32 billion industry. That's like
how much?
$32 billion,
wow.
Like with a B.
That we know of.
Right. And ironically, these guys don't really keep good records. So
imagine that.
I know, right?
So they probably don't have an accountant paying taxes, I'm sure.
They're not. And so this lady goes, Lainey, I know I'm addicted to the money. And she goes, the unfortunate thing is I know I hold an abundance of cash between my legs. And, and it hit me like a ton of bricks because I'm like, I can't deny that. I can't
walking
deny
ATM almost.
Right. And so I've got to convince her that the value of who she is greater than that value. So we've got to begin with changing that status quo. Oftentimes I give a visual where I put a column with Lainey as 10 years old, and I ask people to look up adjectives, and I get things like, I think of her as abandoned and neglected, and I feel sorry for her, and I've got all these adjectives. But then if I were to put on the other column the word prostitute, then I start getting these other words that aren't as pretty. And, when I ask people what's the difference between the two of them, the only difference, honestly, is age. So one of the first things we've got to do as a community is to look at these people as people that are wounded, that there's something behind there. They're not going to self-identify, and so they're not going to be running to us and asking us for help. Another thing we need to do is we've got to curb our pornography. Actually, we need to end our pornography. This is an entryway into all of this. At no point in my life was pornography not a part of my childhood and growing up. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Right.
And we've got to be speaking the value into our daughters and our sons, that who they are is greater than these values that we don't want them doing certain things. We've got values that we don't drink and do drugs. We've got values that we want them to
Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive.
Don't text and drive.
Don't text and drive. Or don't send nude pictures across your text either.
Which is a big problem now.
Mm-hmm. And so, but we also have got to equally let them know that who they are is greater than that, and that if something happens, they can come to us. We talk about values. Often in the church we don't want you drinking. Obviously, good values. These aren't bad values. We want you dressing modestly. We don't want you to have sex until you get married. And so while these are great values, you've got, let's say a 14-year-old, because the average entry age is 12 to 14. You've got a 12, 14-year-old, let's say 14, let's say 13, for kicks and giggles. You've got a 13-year-old that goes to a party at the youth group, and mom and dad are upstairs. It's down in the basement, and you forget that the alcohol's there, and so they start drinking the alcohol, just exploring. And next thing you know, you've got somebody drunk, and you've got a young man who ends up raping, let's say, a young lady. This young girl has gone down and maybe didn't wear what mom and dad said. She's now drank. Now she's had sex before she got married. The likeliness of that young lady going home and telling mom and dad is slim to none.
Slim to none, and Slim just left town. Yeah.
And so, how easy for her the next step to go when a guy goes, you know what, baby, you can make money doing this. It's nothing at this point because there's nobody for her to run to and ask for help. So we've got to be speaking value in life into the lives of those that we're responsible for. And we've got to go to these people, and we've got to be there. We've got to build relationship. Going back and rescuing my mom took years of building a relationship. It was going to the strip club. It was loving her where she was at and not judging her, but looking beyond what she was doing and seeing what that real need was.
And I think you just, I don't mean to stop you there. I think there's something that you just said. We got to love them where they're at. Mm-hmm. We got to stop this mentality of people got to come to us. Mm-hmm. So I really like that. Yeah. You guys, a question, Jeremy?
I was wondering about kind of how you seeing it out in public, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I know I saw around the time of the Super Bowl that they were training a lot of the flight attendants to see it going into that, and Mojo said we've got the Coca-Cola 600 coming up. So is there stuff we can look for, kind of stuff like that?
Yeah. First of all, it's a market. Mm-hmm. We've got supply and demand, and so we've got a lot of people. So it's not the event; it's the fact that this event brings lots of people. When we've got a young girl with a much older man, these are questions I would be asking. Why is that? We've got a national hotline that if you suspect any of this, report it. I'd rather people report it 100 times and be wrong 100 times than not report it once.
Go ahead and give that number
Absolutely.
up.
I wish I had. It is 1-888-373-7888.
Awesome. We'll repeat that in the end of the show, but also we'll put that in the show notes too. So if you're look on your iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, you should have that in the show notes and links. And we'll also have links to Laney's website also.
Yeah. You're going to look for someone that's avoiding eye contact. If you have a conversation with somebody, or so you're suspicious of something, and you do engage conversation, she's going to be looking down and maybe not paying attention to you. You're going to have the gentleman usually speaking for her. She's not going to feel the sense that she can speak. Maybe not even knowing where she is. So many times I've helped women, and I'm like, "Where are you?" And she goes, "I don't even know where I'm at."
Oh, wow.
So, asking some of those questions. Seeing, if this is somebody we know personally and all of a sudden they've got more expensive clothing, more expensive purses, 2 phones, those are new behaviors. Where is that coming from? What's providing that income? somebody that's not going to leave their side. So we've worked with organizations during NASCAR, and we've helped with the training. And it's been great to see them kind of learn these skills and be able to call us and go, hey, is this somebody? And we can go there and help them and offer them our services. The men usually won't leave their side. They're not going to be free to go by
Yes,
themselves.
or merchandise. Yeah.
So, the one lady that we have spotted at a big event here in the community, he wouldn't even leave her when she went to the restroom. He's standing on the outside of the restroom. And it's
Yeah.
not the sweet boyfriend that's holding your purse while you go to the restroom kind of thing. So, there's things that our gut tell us something's not right. We've just kind of shut that down. And I was speaking earlier today, and I said, I'm beginning to get frustrated, and rightfully so, that I'm 10 and 12 years old at the strip club. Why did nobody notice? Why did nobody say something?
Right.
And I hope that doesn't become our community. I hope we...
I think a lot of it goes back to what you first said, though. Shame. Shame is a heavy burden. I mean, you have the shame of the, like, for example, the strippers. You have the shame of the men and women coming in to patronize. I mean, I've been to strip clubs, I admit, and it's a lot of single seats and a lot of single tables. I mean, there's a lot of people there for one reason only, and it's to view and to partake. So I think shame is on both sides there. And maybe if they did notice a kid, they probably wouldn't report it just because their wife or spouse or loved one didn't know they were there. So I read a piece today. Basically says in 2014 and 2015, they were averaging about 400 arrests for sex trafficking. Allegedly, I haven't seen this where they put the statistics together, but it comes from a pretty reliable source. Since January 20th, new administration came in, until February 23rd, there's actually been over 1,500 arrests. So what do you got to say about that?
We're paying attention to it. And as a survivor, I'm hearing somebody's listening to my cry.
Good.
And so it's what we're also doing is communicating that there's value to these lives, that we're going to protect them. And so I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by some of the money that we're beginning to pour in to provide the services for these ladies. While we can prosecute the men, and we need to continue doing that, we need to also realize that, they may serve a sentence, which it takes a lot to get to that point, but they'll serve a sentence, and their sentence is done. But the women who've survived this,
It's a lifelong scar.
It really is. I'm almost 45 years old, have gotten lots of great counseling, but I still have night terrors. I still have PTSD.
Sure.
I usually got my service dog with me because of the anxiety and stuff. But I know that.
And you probably read your signs too.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, I like I said, the site that I read this off of is not exactly a water toting for the Trump administration. So I was very encouraged to read that, and maybe, like I said, maybe these people are actually starting to recognize the law enforcement and everything else like that. Like you said, though, I'm sure part of that 1,500 was not 1,500 pimps, 1,500, the traffickers. I'm sure probably that was, the women themselves too. So how do we differentiate that, when they do these mass arrests? Because I've seen them on TV, you've seen them on Cops where they'll go in or sting, like my local hometown just had a sting, and I think they paraded out 60 people, 60 faces, so you have the Johns, the pimps, and the girls. How do we separate those off to where the women, may not necessarily spend time behind bars for solicitation prostitution, because if they're usually with a pimp, there's a reason why. So,
Yeah, we've got to recognize them as victims, first of all, and we've got to offer more services to them, because, if we aren't helping them figure out why it is that they're feeling like they must be enslaved to this, or have a captor force them to do things they didn't want to do, we've got to help them have a way out. We've got to provide a way out for them. But they can't be the victim. We've got to identify them as a victim of this and offer them the services so they don't continue to be a victim.
sure.
So I've seen some stuff with like legalized prostitution. Some people have that argument and want to go that way. Is that something that would make things worse, better?
Absolutely make it worse.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no protection, and I think we're just justifying the sale of sex.
Right.
And we're missing a big thing, that this no life should be forced to have sex.
Yeah.
There's plenty of proof to show too that only makes it worse.
Yeah. The argument's always that they can be regulated and all that stuff, but it didn't, see. I was just interested.
My problem is, how do you regulate somebody raping you
Yeah.
over and over?
For sure.
It's not consent. I
Yeah.
don't know of any kindergarten class where the little girl goes, "Oh, I want to grow up and be a prostitute."
Right.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Something's leading them to believe that there's no other option to do this.
Well, you have these shows like Cat House on TV that kind of try to glorify that side of the industry. Also, anytime you see a documentary about Amsterdam, I mean, it's they try to glorify the red light district. So it's
You got to realize you go to bed wondering who's going to be touching you, you get done with one of these services and one of these acts, and you get into the shower and you just can't clean it off.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of job that you're like, oh yes, I want to wake up tomorrow and start this all over again.
Sure.
It's
It's not a job that you you have a prospect of a future. You do have glass ceilings there. I mean, you do. It's not like you have a retirement fund, 401k. So obviously, this isn't a job that you would seek.
right, and you usually end up dying of some kind of something from this
Disease or drug addiction,
My
overdose.
mom died way early. Next to our homeless people, the next people that we see in our morgues, the highest number are women who've been prostituting.
Wow.
And unfortunately, they're not identified either. So these are our women that we're forgetting about them, and that's not acceptable.
No, especially in our society where, especially for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, you've heard nothing but the cry of feminism. The march of women and these past marches, A Day Without Women. But you never hear anything about the sex trafficking there or the sex crimes that are perpetuated in the name of some type of a underground economy. That's what disturbs me as a man, is that the least of ours aren't spoken for.
Right.
They're chastised, and here we are worried about certain services that may not be provided to some incomes. So anyway, that's a tangent that we probably want to go down, but that's what troubles me, is that we should be speaking up for these women. So,
And they're not going to speak up for themselves. For myself, by the age of 7, I knew my voice was gone. Nobody was going to listen. Nobody's going to stand up for me. And that side of how we describe prostitutes here in our society, at 7 years old, I didn't look at that list on the left. It was the list of, I'm worthless, I'm scum, I'm a whore. Those
Trash,
words
yeah.
that we use over and over. By 7 years old, that's my identity. And you could tell me till I'm blue in the face, but I'm doing the same thing that these 25, 26-year-olds are doing. So, yeah, you've defined who I am by defining that.
right. Yeah, I mean, let's just call it for what it is. It is slavery, and it's also pedophilia. I mean, it's just a dark industry that I've had this on my heart since we met to do this episode, just because this is the women of the night, that are the people of the night, that in the shadows that no one really sees, that people drive by, people walk by, they just don't notice. I really hope that we can find a way as a community, as a culture, to help stamp this out. So,
Is there anything else that we, wouldn't think of or haven't thought of that you kind of want to put out there?
I think just placing dignity and human value back in their
Yeah.
lives. I think you said it right. When we can overlook a human being, when it's a felony to do some of these acts to an animal, but it's not a felony to the life of a human being. Those are things.
I think, but also, I'm not trying to demean or take away from anyone, but we have disabled people's rights. We have autism speaks, support groups. We have all these support groups, but like you said, for the voiceless, for the people that are in the dark, you don't hear people speaking out about that. So hopefully we can bring some light to that. The best disinfectant is light, as I say. Lainey, we appreciate you coming in today. I'm going to plug your website. It's redeemingjoy.org. That is redeemingjoy.org. You can also follow them on Facebook and also on the Twitter. Lainey George, we appreciate you coming in. Give us a contact number for that number again, if you'd like to.
Sure. The National Human Trafficking Hotline is 1-888-373-7888.
Thank you, Lainey. We appreciate you coming in. Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast. Once again, you can go to redeemingjoy.org. You can donate there also for any projects that Lainey has coming up and also any needs that her rescue house may need. Please check us out on Southern Fried Philosophy on Facebook. Website is www.southernfriedphilosophy.com. You can check us out on Twitter at SFP Radio and also Instagram, the same handle. Go to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. Give us a rating, a like, a share, a review, subscribe, whatever you want to do.
Did we get a Pinterest board set up yet?
Not yet.
We
Do we
gotta
need
get on
one?
that. I think we do.
What are we going to pin, like recipes?
I don't know. Figure it out. You just gotta get on there.
I don't know much about Pinterest, but I know to go there. I know to go up there and look for DIY projects that I'll never do. But anyway, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
I don't really like gravy. I just want to say that.
You really don't like grits either, so I really question how Southern you are.
Gravy's okay. Like, you even said that, like, you don't have to like grits